The fires in California have destroyed homes, land, and lives. More than 200,000 people evacuated as the Palisades fire, the Eaton fire, the New Hughes fire, and several other fires scorched tens of thousands of acres this month.
Oh, but there is hope. You can help those impacted by these devastating fires by joining with CBS News stations across the country, including us right here at KDKA, in donating to our Instathon fundraising event that's underway right now.
Our very own KDKA reporter Barry Pintar was in California helping to tell the stories happening right there on the ground.
Yeah.
Barry, when you were there, and I saw you right before you left, what did you see? What were you experiencing?
Well, you know, our first day there, we got off the plane, jumped in our car, went to CBS headquarters, and went right out immediately. I've been doing this since I was 19 years old. I've seen a lot of things in my lifetime. I can tell you, I have never seen such devastation. One of the first places we went were the Palisades fire, the biggest fire.
Yeah.
Cars melted in these fires.
Unbelievable.
It was so shocking. Yeah, you're seeing just some of the clips that we right there. That's what I'm talking about. See those cars that just flashed by? When I walked up to those cars, I was shocked to see tire rims, parts of the car not melted, dripping down the road. Wow. So, you know, here where we live, we're familiar with house fires and those types of things, but if you can see the size of those blazes, the volume of those flames, it literally just disseminated everything in its path. If you can think of the worst apocalyptic movie that you've ever seen, it was that in real life. Keeping in mind, power's out. You're in blackness surrounded by this apocalyptic, absolute destruction, lest we forget, that touched people's lives.
Right.
This isn't in the middle of the forest, up in a mountain somewhere, completely wiped out, complete communities and towns.
And funny you mentioned that, because as I was watching the CBS News coverage, the dystopian nature of it all, you keep thinking about public libraries I saw were burned, schools that were burned. I mean, you're so right. This touches right here where we live our every day. And I want to know what you heard from the people there, because I know just looking around, there's only so much you can learn until you talk to the residents.
Yeah, and you know what was so interesting about that is, first of all, they were just so grateful for any information we as the media could give to them, because they relied on us. Keep in mind, every official out there was out there fighting the fire. So they would try to feed us information for them to pass on to them. But even at that degree, so many answered questions. 200,000 people evacuated by law. So keep in mind, the city of Pittsburgh is 300. Then there are several more 100,000 on standby to evacuate by any moment. Many of those people are taking off. So they were just forced out of their home. Many of them, one person came up to me and goes, "Help me get back into my house. My husband doesn't have his chemotherapy medication." Oh, another woman, "I left 10 cats behind. I just want to know if they're alive or not." Understanding the real likelihood is their house is long gone. And really, to your point, their library, their coffee shop, their school, their restaurant, their neighbor's home, just everything they knew completely wiped out.
And a lot of these fires are still burning right now. What does it mean for a fire to be contained?
Yeah, that is such a good question, because I try to bring it back home so folks understand. If you can think of the word container, think of a Tupperware container.
Sure.
So if a fire is 98% contained, or in the beginning when it was 0% contained, let's even talk about 15% contained. So if we have a Tupperware container, that means 15% of that area has been mitigated, is what they call, to the point where the fire can't spread out of it. So the fire can still spread in 85%. So a lot of people think if something's 50% contained, it's still 50% burning. Not necessarily the case. It just means 50% stopped from spreading. So where we are now, this is important to talk about. Yesterday, they had some much needed rain, up to an inch, which is huge for them.
Yeah.
Them dancing in the rain, it was unbelievable.
So basically, the fires are out. However, those cars that I talked about that melted, that metal, that's all toxic fumes in the air now coming down from ash. So all these people that I talked about that couldn't get back to their homes, many still can't, because now the air is so toxic. And officials are saying it could be 18 months until they can even go back just to see what happened to their house. The devastation continues.
It really does.
months.
We cannot thank you enough for joining us today and just bringing this
Absolutely.
back to Pittsburgh and knowing that we had one of our own across the country
And
as
all
well.
of the work that you did while you were over there.
Thank you. We
amazing.
had such an incredible crew. It was such a privilege, again, just to relay that information because people needed to know.
Absolutely, they do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Barry.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
And today is your chance to help. Join KDKA and CBS stations across the country as we partner with the Red Cross to lift up families impacted by the California wildfires.
The Instathon event held on Instagram is underway right now. Head to KDKA's Instagram anytime today to donate.